Once upon a time, human beings thought. They questioned, doubted, and reasoned. Now we scroll, react, and repeat. We've entered an age where information is infinite, yet understanding is dying. Where opinions multiply faster than facts, and where truth has become a matter of convenience, not courage. This is not evolution. It's erosion of the one thing that made us human. The ability to think critically. Every day, the average person consumes more information than a 15th century scholar would in a lifetime. You are surrounded by headlines, clips, feeds, algorithms, influencers, and all fighting for one thing: your attention. But attention is not infinite. And when attention is exhausted, the mind stops thinking. It starts reacting. Visuals, people swiping on phones, switching channels, endless notifications. We think we are informed, but we are drowning in fragments. Headlines without context, ideas without reflection, data without wisdom. Critical thinking doesn't die with censorship. It dies with noise. Because in the noise, even lies sound true if they are repeated enough times. Pause. And in the silence between notifications, the mind forgets how to be alone, how to question, how to doubt, how to see. This didn't happen by accident. Modern systems, political, commercial, digital, are built not to educate you, but to condition you. Schools reward obedience, media rewards outrage, and algorithms reward conformity. Cut to images of classrooms, TV anchors, social feeds scrolling. You are not meant to think deeply. You are meant to engage. Because the more predictable your mind becomes, the easier it is to sell, manipulate, and control. Carl Jung warned us a century ago. The greatest threat to humanity is not war or disease, and it is unconsciousness. And that unconsciousness is now global. It scrolls, it trends, it tweets. It believes it's thinking while doing nothing of the sort. Collective stupidity is not the absence of intelligence. It's the misuse of intelligence. It happens when smart people stop thinking for themselves and start thinking as a group. When the fear of isolation outweighs the love of truth. When belonging becomes more important than being right. Cut to visual. Crowds chanting, online mobs, tribalism, political rallies. It begins subtly. A person stays silent because their opinion might offend. Another posts what's popular, not what's true. Soon everyone's feeding off everyone else's beliefs, until the original thought is gone. What remains is a simulation of intelligence. People repeating complex words with shallow meaning. And this is where collective stupidity becomes self-sustaining. It doesn't look like ignorance. It looks like confidence. It looks like a society absolutely certain of things it never questioned. Daniel Kahneman, the Nobel Prize-winning psychologist, once said, "Nothing is more dangerous than an idea you cannot question." Critical thinking begins with doubt, not cynicism, but curiosity. It is the act of asking, what if I'm wrong? But modern culture has made doubt feel like weakness. We've replaced the search for truth with the performance of certainty. Social media doesn't reward reflection. It rewards reaction. It's not about being right. It's about being loud. And every algorithm knows a divided, reactive mind is a profitable mind. Cut to visual. Two people arguing online. A digital crowd cheering, dopamine notifications flashing. So we stop examining. We stop listening. We become addicted to our own opinions. That is how the collective mind loses its critical capacity. Not through ignorance, but through pride. Critical thinking doesn't happen in chaos. It happens in stillness. You cannot question deeply if you never stop moving. But today, stillness feels unbearable. Because stillness brings awareness. Awareness shows us our contradictions, our fears, our emptiness. And so we run into distractions, debates, dopamine. Visual. A person trying to meditate while notifications pile up. We fear silence because silence exposes truth. But silence is the forge of intelligence. It is where thought matures, where insight is born. The modern world is terrified of that silence, because if you stop and think long enough, you might see how absurd the whole game really is. There is only one antidote to collective stupidity: the rebirth of the individual mind. Not the isolated ego, but the conscious, sovereign thinker who stands apart from the crowd. Jung called this individuation. The process of becoming who you truly are, not what society expects you to be. Cut to visual. A lone figure walking through a crowd moving the opposite direction. To think critically in a world of conformity is not an intellectual act. It's a spiritual rebellion, because true thought demands courage. The courage to question your tribe. The courage to admit you might be wrong. and the courage to face reality without flinching. Every philosopher, every revolutionary, every true visionary shared this one trait. They refused to think with the crowd. Critical thinking is not about skepticism for its own sake. It's about freedom. When you think clearly, you become unprogrammable. You see the manipulation. You feel the conditioning. You understand the architecture of illusion. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. That's why the system doesn't want thinkers. It wants followers, influencers, repeaters, consumers. But here's the paradox. When you reclaim your mind, you don't become cynical. You become awake. You stop reacting. You start creating. You stop echoing. You start seeing. And from that, awareness, a true intelligence, returns. Critical thinking will not make you comfortable. It will make you free. It will isolate you, yes, but in that solitude you will find clarity. You will begin to notice how blind the world has become, and how quiet truth really is. The disappearance of critical thinking isn't the end of intelligence. It's the beginning of something deeper. The rediscovery of wisdom, because wisdom isn't loud, it isn't viral, it isn't algorithm-friendly. It lives where silence meets honesty, and it begins the moment you stop asking, "What do they think?" and start asking, "What do I know?" Comment, "I think for myself." Like if you still believe truth matters more than comfort. Share this video with someone who's forgotten how to question. Subscribe for more deep dives into philosophy, psychology, and awakening. Because the war for your mind isn't fought with guns, but with noise. And the greatest act of resistance is to think.